Reporting out of closed session. We have one item, first item.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, council reporting out of closed session. The motion is to receive the report and that confidential direction to staff be confirmed.
Someone like to move that? Councilor Weiss, Councilor Gardner, any comments or questions? Recorded vote.
Recorded vote has been requested for the only item of council reporting out of closed session this evening. Mayor Maracas, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilor Gallo?
Yes.
Councilor Weiss? Councilor Weiss votes yes. Councilor Gilliland? Councilor Gilliland votes yes. Councilor Gardner? Councilor Gardner votes yes. Councilor Kim? Councilor Kim votes yes, and Councilor Thompson was absent. The motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Confirming bylaw. Councilor Gardner, second. Councilor Kim, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Motion to adjourn. Councilor Weiss, Councilor Gardner, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Mr. Clerk, time 7:01. I'm going to call this council meeting to order. The town of Aurora acknowledges that the Anishinaabe lands on which we live and work are the traditional and treaty territory of the Chippewas of Georgina Island, as well as many other nations whose presence here continues to this day. As the closest First Nation community to Aurora, we recognize the special relationship the Chippewas have with the lands and waters of this territory. They are the water protectors and environmental stewards of these lands, and as a municipality, we join them in these responsibilities. We further acknowledge that Aurora is part of the treaty lands of the Mississaugas and Chippewas recognized through Treaty Number 13, as well as the Williams Treaties of 1923. Shared understanding of the rich cultural heritage that has existed for centuries and how our collective past brought us to where we are today will help us walk together into a better future. Councilor, can I get a motion to approve the agenda? Councilor Weiss. Councilor Thompson, you have something to say?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Maracas. I would like to ask that an item be added to the agenda. To do so, I would need to put forward a motion to reconsider, specifically that the notice provisions of bylaw 6228-19, the procedural bylaw, be waived to permit the addition of a closed session item to the agenda, exempted from open discussion by section 239, litigation or potential litigation, with the general nature thereof being the reconsideration of the direction provided to staff regarding 65 St. John's Side Road East.
Seconder, Councilor Weiss. Is there any comments or questions? Council, we need 2/3. Councilor Gilliland.
Thank you. Usually when anybody's asking for a reconsideration, there's a reason behind it. So I just was wondering, Councilor Thompson, do you have a specific reason for the reconsideration?
Councilor Thompson. Hold on.
However, I do. However, I would have to disclose them in closed session. I can't necessarily do it in open. The rationale behind it, fully intend to share with you my thoughts on the matter. But in order to do so, we need to reconsider the matter.
Councilor.
Okay, is there anything in specific to, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Ms. Desario, are there specifics to this file that we can disclose that maybe it's a context or topic of? Because from what I understand, we had contingencies based on certain results to come back to council if they weren't met. So is there something that we can ask a question if it's related to that or not? Because I just don't see a reason to be going back for a reconsideration if we're discussing the same things, if we're already going to be waiting for something to come back.
Ms. Desario.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if I understand the question, you're asking if there's something that we can discuss in open session right now for it.
I'm just trying to understand the context of the topic, because from what I understand, from what we've agreed, that it's contingent on information coming back to us. So I'm just trying to understand kind of the context of why.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I wouldn't know the context of the discussions of the reconsideration. That would be more Councillor Thompson's area, because he's the one who's asking for it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Mr. Desario. I'm just trying to ask, what questions can I ask in public that's specific that wouldn't be compromising this? Because I think we can generalize some things, but I'm under the understanding that, you know, if things weren't met, then it needs to be reported back to council. So if it's something that's related to that, then I understand. But if it's not, and then we're repeating the same thing, then it would make a difference in my decision.
So, Ms. Sarah, you can correct me if I'm wrong, and Councillor Thompson, you can correct me if I'm wrong, because I did have a conversation with you. I think the counselor is asking for council's consideration for a reconsideration for council's direction to staff, confidential direction to staff. That is essentially the reconsideration that is being sought by Councillor Thompson. And I think that's probably the most that we could say at this point in time. Correct, Mr. Serio?
To you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, that is correct.
There you go. Councillor?
Thank you.
Councillor Gallo?
Thank you. This is a little awkward, and I'm not quite sure I understand what it is we're doing. Are we actually reconsidering the decision that was made in closed session, or is there an opportunity to go into closed session and understand the rationale for a reconsideration?
Yes, Councillor Gallo. So what would happen is this is just to ask, Councillor Thompson's asking for it to be added to the agenda for us to move into closed session and then have a discussion and consideration at that point.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, or to you, or to the clerk, it sounds like this is a reconsideration of the direction that we gave staff in closed session, not just to go into closed session. Is that accurate?
Mr. Clerk, no, Councillor, but Mr. Clerk, go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the mayor is correct that this is just to put it on the agenda. 2/3 is required to waive the procedure bylaw to put the item on the agenda. A further reconsideration vote in closed session is also required.
Councillor?
Thank you. And will there be a discussion prior to that reconsideration? I assume there's some information that's new that we didn't know when we made that decision.
Well, as Councillor, as if this passes and we go into closed session, obviously, Councillor Thompson would be given an opportunity to explain why he has asked for us to all move into closed session and have this discussion and reconsideration.
So thank you. Just to be clear through you, Mr. Mayor, that this is only a vote to go into closed session. This is not a reconsideration of the decision that we made in closed session.
Correct. But this is a vote just to add the item to the agenda. We would still need to have a motion, which would just be by majority once we get the closed session to move into closed session. And then we would have a reconsideration in that private session.
And that would also require 2/3 majority.
Correct. Once in there, it would still require 2/3. Correct.
Okay, I don't mind hearing the new information. I assume it's significant to get to this point, notwithstanding the fact that, as Councillor Gilliland said, there are certain things that need to happen before the motion that we moved previously would take effect. So if it's outside of that scope, I hope it is, because I don't want to agree to something that it isn't, and you'll hear me if it isn't in closed session. It has to be something new and something significant.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Mr. Clerk, can we get that amendment on? Call the vote. Councillor Weiss. Councillor Weiss is a yes. Councillor Gilland. Councillor Gilland's yes. Councillor Gallo, is Councillor Gallo's fine? Okay, so it went through. Councillor Gallo went through. Oh, it's not up on my screen. That's why I was looking here. That carries. Councillor Thompson, did you have something else there?
Appreciate the council voting in favor.
Thank you. So now back to the approval of the agenda as amended. Moved Councillor Kim, second Councillor Weiss. Assuming there's no other comments or questions, I'll call the vote. Yes. Councilor Gillen. Councilor Gillen's yes. That carries. Any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. We have two community presentations. First one is Miranda Link, Youth and Community Development Coordinator, regarding the John West Memorial Scholarship Award. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Miranda Link, the Youth and Community Development Coordinator with the Town of Aurora. I'm pleased to be here tonight to recognize and celebrate two incredible youth from our community. The John West Memorial Leaders of Tomorrow Scholarship Award honors the achievements of senior students who attended high school in Aurora and are now moving on to post-secondary education. Each year, up to 2 scholarships are presented to students who are entering their first year as full-time students at either university or college. This year's first winner is Ananya Morlitharan, who recently graduated from Dr. G.W. Williams Secondary School. Ananya will be attending McMaster University next year, where she plans to study, make lifelong friendships, and discover her future. Ananya has demonstrated an unwavering commitment to academic excellence, consistently making the honor roll throughout her academic career. As the vice president and head editor of the school newspaper, Words by Wildcats, she has empowered her fellow writers. Her leadership extends beyond academics, as seen in her role as an English tutor, an executive member of Change by Coffee, and a fundraising coach for Relay for Life. Her dedication to volunteerism is equally impressive. At the Singri Vidha Bharati Foundation, she has contributed over 350 hours, supporting events and community engagement, creating a vibrant and inclusive space for all. Her efforts have been recognized with several awards, including the Youth Volunteer Award, Ontario Volunteer Service Youth Award, and the Give Back Award. Ananya's commitment to volunteerism, leadership, and personal excellence exemplifies the qualities we strive to honor and inspire in our youth. Her dedication not only enriches the lives of those around her, but also gives us hope for a brighter future. This year's second winner is Annika Radaluscu, who is joining us remotely via Zoom. Annika has recently graduated with a business specialist high school major Red Seal diploma from St. Maximilian Kolbe Catholic High School. Annika will be attending Brock University's Bachelor of Business Administration Co-op and International Double Degree program in the fall. Annika has grown up in Aurora, where she has cherished numerous opportunities and experiences provided by the town. From participating in camps and community events since childhood to developing leadership skills through various roles, she has been dedicated to giving back to her community. Annika's commitment to volunteerism is evident through her extensive involvement at the Aurora Community Tennis Center, where she has dedicated over 138 hours teaching tennis and promoting an active lifestyle among the youth. She has also been instrumental in revitalizing tennis at St. Max, serving as a team captain and inspiring her peers to embrace sportsmanship and teamwork. In addition to her athletic achievements, Annika has excelled academically as a member of the Advanced Placement and French Immersion programs, consistently achieving honor roll status throughout her high school career. Her leadership as Athletic Council President has not only fostered a spirit of inclusivity and participation, but has also contributed to the growth of the school's athletics community and won her the Athletic Leadership Award. Her commitment to community service extends beyond sports, as shown by her participation in town events and charitable initiatives, including the Aurora Food Pantry and various other school-driven food drives. Annika's dedication to making a positive impact in Aurora exemplifies the values we celebrate today. Ananya and Annika, the town of Aurora, mayor and council are incredibly proud of your accomplishments and the impact you have made to our community. We are honored to present you both with the 2024 John West Memorial Leaders of Tomorrow Scholarship Award. Congratulations. We would like to invite you down to receive your certificate and take a photo with Mayor Maracas, members of council, and Robin McDougall, the Director of Community Services. So we can see you.
And Annika, I know you're on the screen. I just want to say, I did talk to your parents. I'm going to come visit you guys when I get an opportunity and it works out to present you your certificate as well in person. So council, can I get a motion to receive the presentation? Councillor Gardner, Councillor Gilliland, any questions or comments? Seeing none. Congratulations to both of you. But it's okay. I see you walking out. It's fine. You know what? Congratulations to both of you. I will say, if you don't know who John West was, he was a former mayor of this town. He loved this town, and I think you'd be absolutely proud of the two of you. And we're all looking forward to seeing what you do out there in the world and while you represent the town of Aurora. So we're all proud of you and congratulations. All a vote. Carries. Next, we have a presentation from the region. So we have Joseph, our Director of Roads, Traffic and Fleet at the region, and Nelson, Manager, Traffic Safety and Signal Operations regarding turn prohibitions, St. John Side Road and Old Yonge. Joseph, Nelson, welcome. And I did want to welcome our Chairman, New York Region, Mr. Wayne Emerson. Thank you for joining us here. Hopefully you stay for the whole meeting. No, but we appreciate anytime you come here. We appreciate you coming here, Mr. Chairman. It's always a pleasure to have you. Floor is yours.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mayor Maracas and Nelson Costa, our manager of traffic safety and signal operations, along with myself, will be conducting a very short presentation regarding a turning prohibition pilot that we're recommending to propose tonight. Wanted to thank you all for allowing us to speak tonight at your council, and I will hand this over to Nelson. He has some short slides to go over, and hopefully we can answer any questions regarding this subject.
Thank you, Joseph. So this presentation provides information on turn prohibitions at St. John Side Road and Old Yonge Street. As I'm sure many of you are aware, the intersection has operational challenges because of the proximity to the intersection of Yonge Street. Okay, so the agenda includes a review of the existing traffic concerns that are identified by staff through analysis and also through input received from the area residents. We will speak to the pilot in which turn prohibitions we are implementing to address the traffic concerns and the opportunity to evaluate the effectiveness over a one-year period. I will share a traffic simulation during the morning and evening rush hours, which will highlight the potential improvements to the overall traffic flow in the corridor. And I will finish with the implementation timeline and communication plan. So St. John Side Road at Old Yonge Street is located approximately 100 meters east of the major intersection of Yonge Street and St. John Side Road. Because of the close spacing, it really does preclude the opportunity to install traffic signals at St. John Side Road and Old Yonge Street. Old Yonge Street is currently allows for the left through and right turning movements. So basically all movements in all directions. However, it is very difficult to make these movements, especially during the morning and evening rush hour. And essentially the intersection operates for the most part during these rush hours as a right in, right out because of the amount of traffic that's moving through the intersection. There is a future residential development on the north side that is planned for 39 townhomes across from Old Yonge Street. The access will be ultimately restricted to a right in, right out as development proceeds. Another new residential development is located on the southwest corner of Old Yonge Street and St. John Side Road, which will consist of about approximately 110 condo units. The proposed access to this development will be off of Yonge Street. However, with these two developments, there is going to be an increase in traffic in the area that is going to add further congestion at the intersection of St. John's and Old Yonge Street. Presently, the application is under pre-consultation with both the town and the region. In consideration of the future road network, an interchange on St. John Side Road and Highway 404 is identified in the region's 2051 plan, the Transportation Master Plan. However, it's ultimately up to the province discretion as to when the interchange is eventually constructed. Currently, there are no provincial plans that we're aware of. And as part of the region's 2024 10-year roads and transit growth capital construction program, there are no road widening projects scheduled along St. John Side Road. So this is probably not new news to everyone here. We do have a number of traffic concerns at the intersection of Old Yonge and St. John Side Road, which consists of westbound left turning vehicles at St. John's and Old Yonge that are impeded by the traffic flow and weaving conflicts at the intersection. So while westbound left turning vehicles are waiting to make a left turn from St. John's onto Old Yonge, it's impacting the flow of traffic coming from the east to the point where the traffic queues are spilling back and impacting the rail crossing that is located east of the intersection. Westbound queues do extend past the rail crossing, and there are weaving concerns where vehicles are impatient, waiting behind stopped vehicles. They get out, and then that potentially creates a conflict with vehicles that are not expecting those weaving vehicles. So taking a look at the existing traffic delays, it's very difficult for motorists to turn left and right out of Old Yonge due to limited gaps in traffic. In fact, vehicles exiting right from Old Yonge Street were observed climbing the curb lane because of vehicles trying to make a left out of Old Yonge onto St. John Side Road and having to wait extensive periods of time. And then the left turns from St. John Side Road onto Old Yonge Street experienced significant delays, upwards of more than 4 minutes in order to make that left turn because of the eastbound traffic flow. This is leading to driver frustration and impatience amongst drivers, resulting in aggressive driving and unsafe turns.
Nelson, can I just stop you for a sec procedurally because you're past 5? Can I get someone? Councillor Gardner, second. Councillor Thompson, all those in favor? Opposed, that carries. We'll give you another 5 minutes. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. St. John Side Road carries 26,000 vehicles per day. Currently, there's no reported through movements at the intersection. And on the screen, it shows arrows indicating the left turning movements. The volumes in parentheses are the vehicles that are turning during the evening hours. The numbers that are not in the parentheses are during the morning. So as you can see, the westbound left turning movement is the heaviest, 74 vehicles in the morning, 114 in the evening. Due to the limited gaps on St. John Side Road, left turning movements at Old Yonge Street are relatively low. The region is implementing a 1-year pilot of no left turns in all directions and no through movements in the north and southbound directions during rush hours only and Monday to Friday during the critical days and hours of the day. The pilot will allow the region and town staff to work collaboratively together to evaluate the effectiveness and traffic redistribution in the area. So I will show some simulation. So this is the existing morning rush hour. So as you can see, the vehicles heading in the westbound direction that are in blue are vehicles that are destined to turn left onto Old Yonge Street. They are holding back the platoons. And as you can see, the vehicles are queuing up and they get pretty extensive, especially during the evening rush hour. Move on to the next slide. So with the proposed turn prohibitions during the morning rush hour, what you'll see is traffic is moving more consistently. And there's plenty of capacity and queuing available at the intersection of Yonge Street. So I'll show the evening rush hour, which is the heaviest time period of the day. As you can see, there's a lot of vehicles, but again, the blue vehicles that are waiting to turn left are holding back the westbound vehicles. And there's plenty of capacity at the intersection of Yonge Street to allow for vehicle stacking at the intersection. So now looking at the evening rush hour with the turning prohibitions, you'll see that traffic is queuing, but it's not queuing as far east. It's closer to Yonge Street. At the intersection of Yonge Street, with the optimization of the signal timing, we'll be able to push through more traffic through the intersection, which will create more efficient flow of traffic throughout the corridor. So our implementation and communication plan is to communicate to all area residents within a 2-kilometer grid, not only residents, but business owners through postcard mailing and on-street signs. We will be looking to implement the turning prohibitions in August, in time for September. And we'll be comparing our pre-analysis with our post-analysis and working with town staff and sharing our pilot results as we continue forward. That concludes the presentation. Thank you for the extra time.
Thank you. Council, can I get a motion to receive the presentation? Councilor Thompson, Councilor Gardner, any comments or questions? Presentation, Councilor Gilliland.
Thank you, through Mr. Mayor, to the presenters. Thanks so much for the presentation. I certainly like that simulation. It gave us a real good idea of how traffic flow was. I'd like to see that same thing around Yonge and Wellington over to our train track. It would be very interesting to see what that looked like. Question about the enforcement of this during the pilot. Do you plan on having any enforcement measures during that time?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Great question. And we do work with all our partners, including York Regional Police. And so our plan is to have an education campaign where we have officers with us out on site in the early days to basically flag any motorists that are not complying with the restriction, to remind them that there's something new that has been incorporated into the network. There's turn prohibitions. You're not supposed to be turning here. Please avoid turning here. In future, you will be penalized with a ticket. And that's common with anytime we impose any traffic regulations within the road network. We provide a bit of a grace period to educate our residents, our motorists, but then subsequent to that, it will be enforcement.
Councilor.
Thank you. Obviously, this is a pilot and you're going to study the data, so I really do appreciate that. Have you had any preliminary thoughts about how that would congest the inner, smaller part of the community on Batson Drive? Because obviously anybody that wants to enter into that community will now have to take a long route off like a main regional roads all the way down to St. John's, then to Yonge, then to Batson, and then go back north. So almost doing like a little bit of a hairpin turn. And have you had any preliminary thoughts about how that could create a lot of congestion in that area, in that intersection, and in that community? I'm just curious as to your thoughts on there, because we do have other roads in there that have no turning, one way, speed humps. There's a lot of other traffic calming measures to try and deter people from entering that area. So I'm just curious as to whether or not you'd taken some preliminary data points on that.
Nelson.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Great question again. We do have some modeling that shows where traffic is potentially going to redistribute. The intent of the pilot is to get a better understanding of where that redistribution is. And working with town staff, we recognize that there will be some, impacts in other areas. But the pilot really will help us understand that. Where the main stress point will be is added stress to the intersection of Yonge Street and St. John Sideroad, where motorists will continue south on Yonge Street and use some of the local community roads off of that stretch of road. But the pilot is an opportunity for us to learn and look at any other operational measures that we need to consider.
Counselor?
Thank you. And just a question, I guess. Have you considered, just given the circumstance of the increased traffic there and obviously development, is it something that'd be feasible to ask for a longer advanced screen or some sorts of a left turn there to actually have a little bit more traffic flow than maybe what's currently set?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, great question again. So we do have a plan to optimize the signal operation at the intersection as a result of this pilot. And there's also opportunities to look at extending the westbound left lane at the intersection of Yonge Street to create a little bit more capacity. But these are things that we need to understand as traffic redistributes and how far these queue lengths will go. But we do have some other plans to be incorporated as part of the overall pilot to alleviate some of these other pressure points.
Counselor?
Thank you. And I'm sorry, did you say west lane or did you mean left lane? Did you say left lane? 'Cause
Westbound left.
westbound. Okay, sorry. I'm just sorry. Okay, I get it. That's all. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Counselor Thompson?
Thank you. You briefly made mention to the potential future interchange at St. John's in the 404. You spoke to the fact that it's in the New York Region's 2051 plan, but ultimately it's dependent upon the province, and the province doesn't have any plans. Do you know what the province's horizon is? Are they just looking at it from the next 10 years from a capital infrastructure? Are they also looking out to 2051? Like, what's their horizon? Through you, Mr. Mayor.
Joseph?
Yes, through you, Mayor. We do meet regularly with the staff, our counterparts at MTO twice a year, and we look at their 10-year capital program. And right now, what they've shared with us is exactly a 10-year horizon. So there's nothing beyond the 10-year that I would be able to share at this forum. MTO has not formalized that at this point.
Thank you. And just as a follow-up question, I know myself, and I'm sure many others on council have long advocated for a need for that interchange, and we'd like to see it on the map, so to speak. Is there anything additional that we can do at our level to try and ensure that it at least gets onto the list, so to speak? I know in the past we've put forward a motion. I know the mayor has advocated for as well at York Region, but again, these things take time when it comes to planning, and I'd like to get it on the list sooner rather than later, knowing all of the steps that it has to go through, and the need is coming rapidly.
I'll go to Joseph. I say provide funds, Counselor. I think that's what the province is looking for, right? Right, Mr. Chairman? Funding. Right, Joseph, go ahead.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. By all means, usually when there is a request outside of the province's plan, the request is usually accompanied by funding. And if the funding is not there, then that request does not get pushed forward at the province. I'm not saying it will never, but all I'm saying is the likelihood is a lot less because they have obviously a province-wide road network that they're building. And so those, I guess, take precedence. And please, I'm not the person who decides what goes when. I want you to understand that. But we fully believe and we agree with what we're hearing here tonight. It makes good sense for Aurora and York Region to have that interchange. However, that is something that the province has full discretion over.
Thank you. Just as a comment, then perhaps maybe the next time you have that sit-down conversation with them, that maybe they could at least throw a dart at the board and say maybe it's not in the 10-year capital, but is at least in the 20 or 25. So thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Councillor Kim?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, you had mentioned that there's an education program where YRP is going to be involved to not only direct traffic, but answer questions and provide education during that time. But if August is the commencement date, that's only 2.5, 3 weeks away. I haven't seen any signs up, forewarning residents there that this is going to happen. Approximately, what dates are we looking at for those signs to appear, or some kind of education to notify the residents well in advance so they can prepare?
Nelson?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Kim. The communication plan will be going out within the next week and a half. We were waiting for this opportunity first before we message out to the community. With regards to the education with York Regional Police, it will be leading up to September. We want to make sure that residents are well aware. Come September, traffic gets busier. People are done their vacations and it's returned to school and work. So we want to make sure that we start conditioning motorists before September. And so that would be the right time to do it.
Council.
Okay, thank you. So just to clarify through you, Mr. Mayor, the actual directional, change is not going to happen until September 1st, not August 1st.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we will be communicating within the next week and a half, and then within a week and a half after that, 2 weeks, we will be putting up the sign. So I would say closer to late August, mid to late August, we will have those signs up.
Council.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Councilor Gilliland, second time.
Thank you. I had forgot this other question. Curious as to why you decided to not allow the right turn out. I know you had one example there, but I don't really see a sightline issue. Is there a reason why you decided to say all directions versus straight and left?
Through Mr. Mayor, just to clarify, it's no left turns in all directions.
Okay.
And no through in the north and south directions. So you will still be able to make the right turn.
Okay. All right. That's all I wanted to know. I don't have the presentation up in front of me, and I just remember you saying all directions. So I was just a little curious about that. So I wasn't sure how much the public would like the fact they couldn't even make a right-hand turn out. And I'd feel that maybe there wouldn't be so much compliance. That's all. Thanks.
Any other comments, questions? Seeing none. Gentlemen, thank you for coming. I know that we sat down many times, had conversations. There's a few problematic intersections or challenges within the road network, not only on the region roads, but also our roads as well. But we've talked many times, and this one has come up many times, I know. And I thank you guys for coming up with some creative solutions for us to look at to possibly allow for better traffic flow in the area. And hopefully the pilot does work, and the residents and the community sees the benefits of it. So I thank you, and we'll see how it works out. And if it doesn't work out well, I guess we'll go back to the drawing board, and you guys will have a lot more work to do at that time. But I thank you for all that work, and hopefully we have a successful pilot. Thank you. Council, I'll call the vote. That carries. Council, we'll move to our consent agenda. Would someone like to move that? Councillor Kim, seconder. Councillor Gilliland, any comments, questions on the consent agenda? Call the vote. It carries. Move to number 8, which committee of the whole meeting report, July 2nd. Are there any items anyone wants pulled? Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you. 8.2.1, 8.4.1, 8.6.1, 8.6.2, 8.7.2.
Councillor Gardner. I got him. I'll tell him. Councillor Gardner. All right.
Through Mr. Mayor, I believe 8.6.1 was pulled.
Yep.
Was 0.2 pulled as well?
Which one?
Yeah, sorry, 8.7.2.
Yep.
And I don't believe 8.7.5 was pulled.
Nope.
Thanks.
Yep. New items to that?
Yes.
Or are you just asking for a vote?
I have a comment too.
I hope it's a new comment. Hey, can I get a motion to approve all items an 8 minus 8.2.1, 8.4.1, 8.6.1, 8.6.2, 8.7.2, and 8.7.5. Oh, Councillor Gallo, sorry, did you want something? I apologize.
I just want clarity on 8.9.1. That's simply a confirmation of clarity on a decision that was previously made.
That is to add that item to that decision that was made.
The second point.
Yes, that's for the accessible playground. That was the new business motion that Councillor Weiss put forward for the $33,000, I believe, $33,000 swing.
But
The accessible swing to be added to the fully accessible playground.
it was just for clarity to make sure it was kind of written. Otherwise, it was understood that was part of it. I just want to make sure.
No, it was originally missed when we approved it at council, and that's why Councillor Weiss brought it forward under new business as a motion, and I allowed it last week because I felt that we had substantial discussion in regards to it, and basically it was missed during that council meeting, so we needed to add it back on.
Okay.
Okay. So can I get a motion to approve all items minus the ones that were pulled? Councillor Gilliland, Councillor Thompson. All vote. That carries. 8.2.1. Councillor Gilliland, you pulled this one. Want to move this one? Someone want to move it? Councillor Gallo, thank you. Seconder. Councillor Kim, thank you. Councillor Gilliland, go ahead.
Thank you. I had a few questions about this. I remember when this had come to council and we're talking about a reflection space and how great an idea was. I think we had this vision. It was going to be in a serene park or somewhere that's quiet or somewhere we can have a moment of reflection, for lack of a better term. And I mean, I did read through the report and some of the comments, and it seemed to kind of circle all back to town hall. And looking at where the design is on the corner through Mr. Mayor and Ms. McDougall, I mean, have we taken the noise in consideration? Because I do feel that where it's being proposed is a very busy corner, and I just feel like we could do better.
Ms. McDougall.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, certainly the park proposals that were part of the list, and certainly Town Hall being one of them. That corner of Town Hall has been used in the past as a gathering space. People do use it for a quiet space, believe it or not. Even though it is a busy corner, it is sort of tucked away and downgrade from the busy street, tucked in behind the walls, the retaining walls. So when it comes to actually a peaceful environment, some would say it already is that. They go their lunches there, they go and read a book there, they do find it peaceful. I agree with you, and a park setting would gather and provide a lot more of that as well. But I think when they looked at the evaluations of all of the possible variations of how the space could be utilized, Town Hall, through all the vetting, landed that it was the most suitable. So I think there's pros and cons to this site, as there was with all the parks as well, for various reasons.
Councillor.
Thank you. I guess I could say I'm just very surprised it circled back there because I quite honestly wasn't expecting that. I really thought this was going to happen at Jubilee or by the senior center, one of the two areas. Whatever happened with the senior center proposal, or I know that they were interested in having something within that area, and they had conversations with myself and Councillor Weiss. Whatever came of that? Through Mr. Mayor to Ms. McDougall.
Ms. McDougall.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. That is still a possibility if the seniors wish to propose the gazebo idea, which they did share with me, as you may recall. We had that conversation. It was not part of a public reflection space. Our concern, as I believe I relayed to you, would be that this is intended, the intention of this community reflection space is it could gather quite a large group. It could be very political at times, depending on the content of what the subject matter may be. It is not it would have to be understood by the seniors that it was very public and wide open. They couldn't be an exclusive site or location. So I think the determination of the 4 sites that were proposed was based on the capacity, the space that was available, would not preclude the seniors from still proposing to have their gazebo if they wish to revisit that project.
Counselor?
Thank you. And a quick comment through Mr. Mayor, Ms. McDougall. Are we changing the type of space when you say it can be political or other large gatherings? So you're suggesting this is not just for bereavement or grieving or whatnot. This is specifically for anything that somebody could, organize a petition or a protest to something, and this could be a gathering space to talk about whatever topic they want to talk about, and have a gathering of a whole bunch of people because they're passionate about whatever change they want to make in the town or within their community or whatever. Is that what we're proposing then? Because I'm a little confused as to like the purpose of the space by that description. Or if I misunderstood, that's fine. Please expand.
Through Mr. Mayor, I apologize if I made it sound that it's a rally point or a petition or something of that nature. The reflection idea has come about initially. It was the Indigenous group that we have. It came about with having an opportunity for the community to have a place to go and reflect. Obviously, when the incidents with the schools, the discovery, a place to reflect and go and visit. When the topic of that evolved, shortly thereafter, we have the incident in the Ukraine. The community wanted a place to go and gather. And I think when I meant political, that's sort of what I meant, is it does become a bit of an opportunity for people to support each other, come and reflect, but it's not meant to be a picketed or a petition. That's not what we're speaking of this nature. That might still happen here at the municipal building. That's not what we're promoting. That is not what I intended to, if that was the message I gave you. It is meant to be a peaceful gathering of people that come and wish to remember, support each other, rally together, and support what their initiative or cause is.
Counselor?
Thank you, through Mr. Mayor, Ms. McDougall. So using that example, say, for instance, Ukraine, we had a vigil that was at Town Park. So does that mean that these organized vigils will now be in this space?
Ms. McDougall?
Lost my connection. Through Mr. Mayor, that's a possibility. This is and would be promoted as a community reflection space. Any organized group would still and could still choose a destination on their own. We wouldn't want to prevent them if they wanted to gather somewhere else than on a municipal property. But we would actually be proactive in promoting that this site out front of Town Hall is what we deem to be a community reflection space based on the amenities we anticipate putting in that location.
Counselor?
Thank you. And do we have an anticipation of how many people would fit in that area? Would it be an issue if a large gathering wanted to come and have a vigil or a reflection there? Do we have like a limitation that we've established?
Through Mr. Mayor, no, I don't think we have a population or head count maximum that we've put there. I know that we have had that site utilized for our Christmas tree lighting in the past. It has had quite a few tens of probably 10 to hundreds of people standing in that one little gathering area. It would, if we deemed it to be or anticipated it was going to be a significant event, we would probably work with the organizers to maybe pick an alternative location. But again, we don't anticipate that certainly to be a regular thing. That is, it's more for the one-off reflection, come and be peaceful, gather with your friends or not, be on your own, sit and reflect in memoriam or in support of a particular initiative.
Counselor?
Thank you, through Mr. Mayor, Ms. McDougall. Did we ever consider a space in the Arboretum, or we have a very large, I believe it's an oak tree or a maple tree of sorts down by Lambert Park area. It's down below and off to the side and away. And it's a significant tree, the oldest tree in our town kind of thing, but we don't really have a bench or anything there. Do we consider any of these spaces that were, I guess, more peaceful? Because I'm just falling back on the sense that I do feel it's a very busy corner there where it's being proposed currently.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I know that the Arboretum had in the past, mic is on. I know in the Arboretum had in the past been a possibility. I know in brief conversations with the organizers of the Arboretum, I think they were concerned about what the promotion might be for the nature of what they see the garden being and the delivery. So we didn't pursue it to that specific. However, Lambert Wilson Park was one of our options. So we spread it out, took it further into the park versus in the Arboretum specifically. But again, the nature and the feedback, as you can see, there was quite a, I'll call it almost an equal evaluation of sites, positive results in each of our options. But for various reasons, we landed just here at Town Hall.
Counselor?
Thank you. And in my final question, I know you mentioned that it's noisy and a little bit there, but people do have lunch. Are you suggesting that people from Town Hall might be having lunch there? Do you think that that could create an awkward environment if people normally are having their afternoon lunch, but yet people want to have a nice peaceful moment and it might just interject or interfere with one another's purpose being there? And I say that sincerely because if I was someone, I felt that this was that safe space, but yet I'm like, oh, I might find this a little awkward because I might be here with other people from the town having lunch. And I'm just saying that because I'm just trying to be real. Do you think that that could also create a bit more of a conflicting purpose?
Through Mr. Mayor, I don't know if there would be anywhere in a park where we could make it exclusive to purely reflection. I think any of our open spaces and park spaces will have that natural integration of use. I think if we can design it in a way where it is demonstrated to be a bit of a reflection, whether there's a memoriam trees or a bench in memoriam, where there is that impression of what that space could mean to people. I would anticipate it's not going to gather necessarily a family picnic. That's not what I'm anticipating. Yes, staff might go out and wander and have a lunch, but it wouldn't prevent somebody from having a peaceful moment out in that location. And I don't think any of our parks would have that. It would enable that blend naturally, because we couldn't make it exclusive and say, no, you can't go in if you're going to have your lunch. That's just not the way we would envision a use of a space.
Counselor?
Thank you. And then finally, if we decide to go through with this and have this design come to council, is this something you intend on, I guess, advertising within the public community that this space is specific for that? So there's more of an education out there that that's what we've created for them?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, obviously, if this is the location council approves, yes, the design would be coming back to council for final approval. As far as once that's all done and it's designed, it would definitely be promoted as a location and destination. But again, it would not be deemed to be the exclusive for that purpose. It is still our town hall, still municipal business takes place here. But this would be an opportunity for a location for people to come and reflect.
Councilor?
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Call the vote. That carries. 8.4.1, Councilor Gilland, you pulled this one. Do you want to move that? Yep. Thank you. Seconder, Councilor Thompson. Thank you. Go ahead, Councilor Gilland.
So, thank you. I know I wasn't here for the initial discussion, but I did watch it online. And I did have some questions, and unfortunately the consultants aren't here. Through you, Mr. Mayor, Ms. Wainwright by Kessel, within the preliminary asset management plan, was the new development of the SARC and the town square considered in this project?
Ms. Wainwright by Kessel.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So this reflects the assets that we owned and had in use at the end of last year. Those assets will need to be added as they are fairly new. The incremental cost will be fairly minimal over time because the replacement activities will happen much later out in the time horizon for our capital planning.
Councilor?
Thank you. And I guess my question is, and I think that I didn't really get the clarity from the discussion committee of the whole. We were talking about the 2025 plan and the 3.5 and the bullet point 3 and what we were approving that night or tonight. Is this something that we're going to be managing at budget time? Or are we approving this now preemptively? I'm just trying to understand how this is going to affect our future budget.
Ms. Wainwright by Kessel.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So what our plan is in September, we're going to come back with a comprehensive plan as to be able to meet the financial obligations identified in the both asset management plans, this one and the natural capital asset management plan, while also staying within the tax levy that was identified in the multi-year budget. So we do have some strategies for that, including savings from the move to producer responsibility for waste, and also from debt that's completing that's tax funded. So those are going to be some of those pieces that are going to get us there. And we also need to remember that as we move forward into 2027, a new term of council, it gives us time to really refine the plan even further. Because as our consultant mentioned last week when he was here, that as we get more information, we can further refine the plan and get a better picture long term. But also we have a lot more municipalities that are going to be getting to the stage and identifying these tax pressures. And that's going to spur a lot of advocacy to the province and the federal government that municipalities do need help with this. So I think once all the other municipalities get to that stage, there is going to be a lot more advocacy for assistance.
Councillor?
Thank you. And I agree with everything that you're saying there. And I think a lot of us were showing a lot of concern with our future outlook, especially on the infrastructure that we need to maintain. So with that, just with that language, with the proposed capital assets levels of service measures and targets be approved, I'm just wondering why we wouldn't have said that the targets be considered at budget, considering we don't really need to approve anything till July 2025, and we don't really understand what those budget implications mean or where they go. We're going to get a report in September. Is that something that as council, if we wanted to relook at these service levels that are being presented in this report and understand what the consequences of the 10, 15, and 20 years that were being presented in the presentation at that time in September, when we're going through budget, that's when we can approve it.
Swear Van Kessel?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So at this time, recommendation 2 does need to be go forward so that we can meet our asset management obligations under the regulation. For number 3, there are opportunities to change the service levels in the future. They're not set in stone. Like if we realize that we decide to either invest more in asset management to improve service levels, or we decide to scale back in areas, we can do that. So it's not something that we need to set in stone at this point in time. So even if we take these service levels, which really reflect for the most part current service levels that we have on all our assets, and we accept them for what they are, we can still change them in the future. This is a living document, so we can adapt as we go.
Councillor?
Thank you. And I appreciate it's a living document. I guess for me and some of the conversation that was around the table was just understanding what those percentage increases meant moving forward. And we don't really have that report in front of us. And so would it make a difference if we were to agree with this level of service, but to approve them at the budget to make sure that, why wouldn't we choose the 20-year versus the 15-year, or why are we choosing the 10, not the 15, and having that inside look? So I guess my question to you, is that something that we could, if we wanted to choose, just wait until we got that report in September to make that decision, because we don't have those numbers in front of us. We're just going based on a recommendation from the consultants, but we really don't know what the consequence of that is until we get your report in September.
Swear Van Kessel?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So what this does is it approves the service levels. It's not the actual financial strategy to meet the service levels.
Okay. Just
The financial strategy is a completely separate piece. And what this plan does in meeting the regulation, it identifies what the financial obligations are. But at this point, we're not saying, yes, this is what we're going to accept. That's why we want to do that piece in September.
Councillor?
Thank you. That's what I wanted to hear. I didn't want that language saying we're approving the service level at that budget level without knowing. That was the clarity I needed. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? For a call to vote, I didn't speak last week as well. I just wanted to say that this is something that all municipalities are going to have to deal with, and they're going to have their plan in place and approved by 2025. We're ahead of the curve. I commend staff and this council for moving ahead so quickly to make sure that this gets done. So it affords us the opportunity as we move into the 2025 budget cycle that we have an opportunity to be flexible, make adjustments where needed to ensure that we continue on the balanced approach that we've continuously had since 2016 of keeping things at inflation or below inflation when it comes to our tax rate. We've identified 3.5% and 2.9 in the next 2 years, as Ms. Wainwright Van Kessel has mentioned, as we all know, and the public knows. And I can assure you, we're very confident that we're going to meet those numbers. Because we're going to be working all summer, I know, to ensure that our budget is what our residents expect, and they continue to get the service levels that they expect and they deserve, and we continue to have an appropriate tax rate, which is one of the lowest in the entire GTHA. So, thank you, Ms. Wainwright Van Kessel, and thank you, staff. Call the vote. That carries. 8.6.1, Councillor Gilliland, you pulled this one. This is the Windrows pilot. Do you want to move that? Yep. Thank you, seconder. Councillor Weiss, thank you. Councillor Gilliland, go ahead.
Thank you. And apologies, it's me doing all the pulling, but I guess because I missed that first meeting, I'm having my first crack at it today. So that's why it's me. As for the window clearing program, obviously, I'm in favor of this program for the reasons of the motion that I brought forward. And I'm just curious, I know that there was some discussion about the option C with the fee option, and that is something that I was interested in exploring, but I didn't really feel like there was any specific direction as to what that encompassed. I know there's some talk about criteria for families who really could not maybe afford that fee. Did we establish what that fee was? Mr. Mayor, to Ms. Teenkamp, if perhaps you could kind of give me an idea of how you felt that was left. Help me understand where council's staff is going with that direction.
Ms. Teenkamp, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you're going to come back with the details of that, but go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's correct. We're going to bring up a report back in September that'll speak about the eligibility for the program as it sits currently, and to also talk about how those impacted by low income, we may work with them to subsidize the program further.
Councillor?
Thank you. To you, Mr. Mayor, Ms. Teenkamp, I know that in the report you did talk about examples of some suggested fees. Is there a way that you could include a really low number and maybe some of your recommendations? I think that the average median within your survey was about 75, but even if we started low at 50, it'd be nice to know on the low end what that would look like. I don't know what you intend on coming back with the report, but I'm just requesting that perhaps we could also look on the very low end. And if it's something that's successful, then maybe that's something we slowly increase if we need to.
Teenkamp?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, certainly we can look at that option as well.
Councillor?
Thank you. I appreciate that. Also, I'm just curious as to, obviously we're looking at doing this through tax stabilization. And I just was curious is this something that council decided early on that we were going to fund this through the tax stabilization? Because I thought that the original pilot was something that we had done last time. And moving forward, if we agreed with the window clearing, that it would be something we'd be looking at the budget. And I'm just curious as to why we're seeing this on a tax stabilization.
Swear, Van Kessel?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So the first time the pilot ran, it was a bit of an unusual winter experience for us. So part of the reason we want to continue with the pilot on again and pilot this for another season is to see how it would go through with what a normal expectation for winter would be. So at this point, since we would not be committing to an ongoing program, we would still continue tax stabilization until we actually wanted to put it into the levy, because then it's something that we are going to proceed with on a regular basis.
Councillor?
Thank you. And I recall through Mr. Mayor, Ms. Van Kessel, it's because we had a winter that didn't really merit too much winter clearing at the time. And so to have a more of a fulsome look, this would help us determine whether or not the actual cost made sense. Is that correct? Okay.
Swear, Van Kessel, I see nodding yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Councillor? Any other comments or questions? Call the vote. That carries. 8.6.2. Councillor Gillen, you pulled this one as well. Do you want to move that? Councillor Gillen? Yes. Oh, thank you. Seconder? Councillor Kent, thank you. Councillor Gillen, go ahead.
Thank you very much. Again, with the sidewalk and adding the sidewalk, I did hear some of the conversation about, I guess honoring your contract, and we had some answers to that and how we're adding kilometers. So I do understand all that. When it comes to funding these sidewalks and moving forward, I guess this is through Mr. Mayor with Wainwright and Kessel, I guess. As far as the funding, we're anticipating on doing this through the tax stabilization for 2024 for the winter season, but 2025, it'll for our next budget, this will be included in our next budget. I'm just trying to understand.
Ms. Wainwright Van Kessel.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes. So because this would start this year, we cannot change the tax levy as final bills, as you know, have gone out. So for this winter season, we would use tax stabilization and then we would work it into the budget through 25 and 26.
Councillor.
Thank you. And just to clarify, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Ms. Wainwright McCussell, we will see what that increase looks like in the upcoming budget that will be itemized.
Ms. Wainwright Van Kessel.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, because of the value of it, yeah, it would be itemized as a separate item.
Thank you.
Councillor. Any other comments or questions? Call the vote. That carries. 8.7.2, Councillor Gillen, you moved this, you pulled this one as well. Did you want to move it? Someone want to move it? Councillor Kim, seconder. Councillor Garrell, thank you. Councillor Gillen, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm just trying to understand a little about what the intention staff is going to do with the information report. I know that there has been some research done by myself on the side and also on various conferences I've been about bike share ride programs. And within that context, through Mr. Mayor to, I guess this is Mr. Maramuno, are you looking at whether the success rate of a bike share program? Because I know that there has been several municipalities, London, for example, just in 2023 last year, it was not something that was considered successful because they lacked the infrastructure and active transportation infrastructure. So I'm not really quite sure exactly what kind of information we're trying to get from this. I don't want staff taking too much time because I personally feel like our town's not ready for this. And I understand that the region has decided that they have no interest in taking this on. And I felt that if this was going to be a rideshare program, it should be a regional project because I feel people will be crossing bikes over from municipality, Newmarket, and bikes will be left everywhere. And I'm just curious as to what is staff's intention with this information report, because I'm really kind of sensing I don't want you wasting too much time on this if we can quickly get some answers without investing too much time.
Mr. Romano.
Certainly, through you, Mr. Mayor. At this point, we want to issue the request for information to release seek interest from vendors and explore models and partnerships, essentially third-party provider partnerships. So we're really following up from a council direction last year to investigate a bike share feasibility study. So as part of our active transportation master plan, we had WSP assist on completing a bike share study. They made some recommendations, and part of the recommendations are that we should actually explore partnerships with third-party providers. So that's the point of this report, is really to issue a request for information. We'll then report back to council in the fall on any interest we receive, and again really explore those models and partnerships to actually whether we can actually implement such a program.
Councillor.
Thank you. And as a follow-up through Mr. Mayor, Mr. Ramuno, so looking for a partnership or a vendor is one thing, but understanding our own infrastructure and whether it's not something that would work, are those the types of conversations you'll be having with these vendors and what currently Aurora has? Because I just kind of, for me, I feel like we're wasting time if we haven't established that yet. If you could just clarify.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, as part of the the study that was undertaken by WSP as part of the active transportation plan. They did identify sort of potential rolling out such a program in 3 phases and identify the potential of, over the 3 phases of 30 sort of bike stations. But again, that was really high level. So the point here is to drill down and explore sort of that, the models and how we can deliver, such a program, having a third party provide such a program though. And really at this point, there's no financial impact to us. We really want to seek out, interest from any vendors and explore those models and partnerships and report back to council on whether, such a program is feasible at this time for the town of Aurora.
Council.
Thank you. Okay, well, if this is not something that is going to be costing us any fees and we're just asking for information, that's great. My feeling is that we probably won't have necessarily all the infrastructure that would warrant it, but I guess we could certainly find out and ask the questions. If that's the case, and we are talking about active transportation just in general, maybe it would be beneficial to also inquire about the use of e-scooters, since they're still an active transportation potential, and maybe these companies offer both e-bikes and e-scooters. Having been at the conference in Calgary, that was something that was considered a very successful program there, but yet they felt the bike share wasn't as conducive comparatively to the e-scooters, and perhaps that might be something that would be worth exploring at the exact same time. Through Mr. Rumuno, would that be something that we can inquire with these vendors at the same time?
Mr. Rumuno?
Through Mr. Mayor, yes, that's going to be part of the discussion, exploring all those options.
Councillor?
Thank you. So I guess within that, within the resolution, it does specifically ask for bike share program. Would council direction then need to say bike share and e-scooter share program?
Mr. Rumuno?
Through Mr. Mayor, no, I don't think we need that direction, because those are all the options that we will be looking at. Bikes, e-bikes, scooters, the like. Yeah.
Councillor?
Thank you. I just want to make sure that it's clear in our intention. So when we do have an information report back, that we all are on the same page and we know what we're looking for and expecting, versus staff coming back and suggesting it wasn't in their purview. And I certainly don't want to waste your time looking into this without having a fulsome look. So any idea of when we would expect this information back then?
Mr. Rumuno?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, best case, I would think maybe late fall or early 2025.
Councillor?
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Call the vote. That carries. 8.7.5. Councillor Gardner, you pulled this one. Did you want to move it? Someone like to move that? Councillor Gallo? This is the one on Center Street. If you want to move it. Councillor, it's your ward, that's why I asked you, but Councillor Thompson, thank you. Seconder? Councillor Gilliland, thank you. Go ahead. Councillor Gardner, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had a question about, it says that it's an apartment building, and usually apartment buildings are rental buildings. And I believe that the developer was proposing to do rental here, but I think they said that when they asked in the council chamber, they said no, they didn't know if it would be feasible. So just for clarification, through you to Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Rumuno, is the intent for this to be a rental building?
Mr. Rumuno, I believe the intent is there, but they're still working through the feasibility of whether that is the possibility still. Mr. Rumuno?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, that's correct. When they did approach council at the public planning meeting, that is their intent to construct a purpose-built rental building. They can't commit to that 100%, but that's what they're going to explore moving forward.
Councillor?
So we grant this, their intent can change, like we have no control over that. They should turn this into a condominium.
Mr. Romano?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's correct. We can't control tenure of ownership. So, I mean, it could be a purposeful rental or it could be a market condominium.
Thank you.
Counselor?
Thank you, through Mr. And they're asking for a lot of exceptions and, so, you know, maybe I'd be in favor of granting them if they were going to do dedicated rental, but if it's going to be a completely for-profit building or a condominium, I think you can make a profit on rental, but if it's going to be a condominium, then I certainly wouldn't be in favor of giving them some of these changes. And the two that are most important to me, it's I believe the proposal is for the front yard, which would be the side along St. John's Sideroad. Sorry, Industrial Parkway North. The front would be along Industrial Parkway North. They want an exception to go from 13.5 meters to 3 meters. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Romano.
Mr. Romano?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's correct. Just for clarity's sake, though, the proposal does conform to the promenade secondary plan and promenade design guidelines with respect to bringing the buildings closer to the street. So the exceptions are required based on the old R2 zone standards, but the official plan and promenade design concept plan did speak to encouraging buildings to be located closer to the street to make them more pedestrian friendly and just framing the streets within the promenade.
Counselor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And it does say that in the report. And as I'm reading it, is to have a more intimate and accessible building designs, buildings situated closer to the street. So it can animate, as you said, the streetscape and create a pedestrian friendly design. I do not believe that was envisioned for Industrial Parkway North. Industrial Parkway North has a lot of truck traffic because of all the businesses and, you know, the factories. And I mean, it's an industrial street. So to me, to put apartments of any kind really that close to such a busy street that carries so much traffic, I'm looking at the noise, the pollution, and we're looking at the quality of life for our future residents. So I will absolutely be voting against this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Mr. Romano, I just have one. Oh, Councilor Garner, you want to speak again?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did forget to talk about the amenity space, which is something I talk about quite a lot. The reduction in the indoor amenity space it's just not acceptable. The indoor amenity space, especially in a place like Ontario, is to be able to have a place where people can gather and socialize and just have a place where they can be in the winter, especially that is not their apartment. These apartments are going to be small. So the indoor amenity space is very important. And it's been reduced to a size that I believe is unacceptable. So that would be the second reason I would not vote for this, but primarily putting this building so close to the street is going to be a nightmare for the future residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Romano, was this area part of the original study of the Aurora Promenade design study?
Yes, it's to you, Mr. Mayor. Yes.
So, I mean, when I read the Aurora Promenade Urban Design Strategy provides a framework for shaping the future role, function, and character of the study area. So I believe that when it was developed, this area was contemplated to be residential at some point, and considering the promenade speaks to moving the buildings forward to the street, it was anticipated through this design that that's what would happen in these areas, including this specific area. So I'll be in favor. Call the vote. That carries. So council will move to number 9, which was just the audit committee meeting reports. Does someone want to move those? Councillor Thompson, seconder. Councillor Weiss, thank you. Are there any comments or questions on those ones? Councillor Gilliland?
Oh, sorry. No, we don't.
No. These are from our audit committee, Mr. Chairman. See you. Thank you. Have a good night. Yep, 9.1, 9.2, which are the audit committee reports. Okay, I'll call the vote. That carries. Number 10, 10.1 is the interim forecast update. Someone like to move that? Councillor Thompson, seconder. Councillor Kim, any comments or questions? Councillor Gilliland?
Thank you. I don't have the page up in front of me. I had a few pages here. I did notice that obviously there's some surpluses, deficits, whatnot, things ebb and flow, and I get that. But I guess I wanted to kind of touch on the stormwater infrastructure management, the surplus that we have. And I don't know if that is from the report that we just have from the asset management. No, we found some extra funding there or not. But I'm just curious through you, Mr. Mayor, to Ms. Wainwright McCussell, does that mean that we'll be able to maybe allocate a little bit more funding to some of the infrastructure repairs and maintenance that we wanted to do? Because I know that in previous budgets, we were presented a 5, 10, 15, 20-year projection, but we had to put some on hold because we didn't necessarily have the funding for that. So does that mean that we'll be able to allocate some funding for that and maybe take a look at that at this upcoming budget?
Ms. Wainwright McCussell?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So the stormwater surplus that's being reported is due to the operational items that they have. So there's some operational work that is set aside for some emergency work and some catch-up work in the maintenance of the stormwater ponds themselves. If any of these funds are not spent during the year, what happens is those funds end up in the stormwater reserve, and then they can be used for asset management works, but they're not ongoing funds, as we're expecting more operational items to happen in the future.
Councillor?
Okay, no, I appreciate that because I know that's something that we know is very important to our infrastructure. And I just want to make sure that we collectively, council, are cognizant of the fact that if we have extra funds around, we are looking at our infrastructure and our stormwater management, that perhaps we should ensure that we're moving up those projects along. Because I did notice within the previous report that there's a lot of delayed projects in 2023 that was not listed. And I want to make sure that these are revisited for 2025. I did have a question and I can't find the page, unfortunately. But I did see within the planned capital budget, the Aurora Town Square letters. And I mean, I recall there was a mayoral decision to have these letters, but I don't recall us ever allocating funds or saying we're allocating funds on any tax levy or budget. And I'm just curious through you, Mr. Mayor and Ms. Wainwright McCussell, were the funds allocated directly from the levy? I don't think we really determined where that came from. It just says 250,000 of the 500 have been forecasted for 2024. The variance is 250,000 and 50% is to continue in 2025. And I just don't recall ever specifically allocating where that was coming from.
Ms. Wainwright McCussell?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, so I believe since that project hadn't started, it hadn't been funded, it is on hold. So unless we get further direction and to move forward. So it's on hold until funding comes available.
Councillor?
Thank you. Sorry, I'm just not sure because it had it split up 250, 250. So I wasn't sure what the status was, if that means that this is something that it's saying projected to continue. And I'm just curious as to what this is telling us and what this means. So come 2025, does this mean this is, I just don't see anything specific on a tax levy that was approved for this? I'm just trying to understand.
Ms. Wayne Van Kessel.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So I believe this project is sitting in a different group, and the group, it got pulled in and should not have, because it's not a funded project at this time.
Counselor.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor Thompson.
Thank you. I'm not sure if you're able to answer this now, but perhaps you can come back to council. But going to attachment 1, the tax levy funded operational results, I did notice that in a number of the departments, the admin costs are higher than projected. So, for example, corporate services, the admin costs are up 10%. Financial director's office, they're up 7%. Operational services, they're up as well, and same thing with community service. Is there something that's across the board, or through you to Mrs. Van Kessel?
Ms. Wayne Van Kessel.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So the admin departments, the director's offices in each departments are the ones that hold the gapping target for that department. So there's a negative budget item in that area with the expectation that the savings will happen within the other areas within the department.
Counselor.
Gotcha. So as we progress throughout the year, we'll certainly see that level out. Through you to Mrs. Wainwright Van Kessel.
Ms. Wainwright Van Kessel.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, overall for the department, it will disappear, but the director's office will still remain because it's still a negative budget item. So it will look like the director's overspent for the year in their administration office, but they'll have savings in other areas within the departments.
Counselor.
But do we not already have it in the budget, the gapping? So how is the forecast greater than budget if we would have already put gapping in the budget process? Sorry if I'm not understanding. Through you to Mrs. Wainwright Van Kessel.
Ms. Wainwright Van Kessel.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the reason why it looks like it's an overspending is because the budget item is actually a negative, reducing the salaries and benefits in the director's office budget. So if they are actually planning on spending everything else to budget, you end up with this variance, which is actually an increase on the budget because of the negative. It's this double negative situation that's making it a little confusing.
Counselor.
Okay. We'll take it offline. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Call vote. That carries.
Yeah, that's
New business. Councilor Reese.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Just want to make a bit of announcement, the formation of a ratepayers association. We had 3 of them in Ward 1, and we're talking about getting budgets for those ratepayers associations because they have needs for example, meetings, as well as what's come up lately is the neighborhood watch program. We've had YRP into a number of them. The comments about where do we get signs, who pays for that. So it's really not clear about how we can support ratepayers associations. So I'd like to speak about how we can get that through. And I have had a conversation with the CAO about it. So I want to thank him for that as well. I want to thank Constable Wojo from YRP, who's come up and helped us a number of times. He's spent on weekends and with the residents, and he's very good at what he does. So I really want to thank him for that. So I'd like to consider a budget item for 2024 to make sure that we have ward budgets, and we also have ward budgets for newly formed ratepayers associations so that they can meet on a regular basis.
Thank you.
That's it.
Councilor Gilliland, new business. Councilor Gardner. One second. Getcha. Oh,
Can I do it
yeah,
myself?
it's on now. Go ahead.
I don't object to the ask for ratepayers associations, but we've never had budgets. I don't believe.
I don't know if we're gonna have that discussion here right now.
No, I'm just
Yeah.
saying, it's not something that I've ever experienced, and I don't think the ratepayers associations have expected it, but anyway, I'm looking forward to hearing what the result's going to be.
Thank you. Any other new business?
Not at the moment.
No. Councillor Thompson, new business? Councillor Kim, new business? Councillor Gallo, new business?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just following up on my, I guess, request from last week on the water feature at Queen's Diamond Jubilee Park. If there's any update, please.
Ms. Camp, any update for Councillor Gallo?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, currently, no. We're in the exploration phase. It appears there may be an electrical fault, so we're looking to our consultant to come in and do some testing on the wiring.
I guess there was a bit of an update, Councillor. Some electrical issues. So we'll get, staff are working on that.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
That was it.
Thank you. Regional report, someone want to move that? Councillor Kim, Councillor Thompson, any comments, questions on the regional report? Call the vote. That carries. Bylaws, someone want to move the bylaws? Anybody? Councillor Gilliland, thank you. Seconder, Councillor Kim, thank you. Councillor Gardner?
Hold on. Could you call bylaw 3 separately, please? That's the one.
13.3.
Yeah,
That is
that's
in
the-
regards to Center Street, the one we just talked about. Yep.
Correct. Thank
Okay.
you.
So mover and seconder, you're okay to move and second all of them, right? Correct. I'm just going to call 13.3 separate, all the rest together. Okay. Which ones do you want to do first, Mr. Clerk? The 3 of them? So we'll do all of them except for 13.3 first, okay? That carries. And now we'll do bylaw 13.3. There it is. That carries. So now I need a motion to move into closed session. Councillor Thompson, seconder. Councillor Weiss. And I will call the vote. That carries. Councillor, does Councillor Gallo have to re-log in? You'll send him a link? Councillor Gallo, the clerk's going to send you a link, okay? Okay. We'll see you in a minute. We're in recess. Okay. So, all right, we're back, council. I just need a motion for the confirming bylaw. Council Thompson, Council Ruiz, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Can I motion to adjourn? Council Ruiz, Council Kim, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.